Good morning, Algebra 1 students. It is Wednesday and I have your next lesson for you in Chapter 12. I hope that Lesson 12.2 went well, and let's get started. So I'm going to say a prayer. Father in heaven, we just thank you for this day, and I pray for all of my students that they would focus and learn well, that they would master this material excellently, and that you'd strengthen me and help me to be the very best teacher I can be, using words that will help their instruction the most. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, well, it's a beautiful day out there. We're supposed to be in the 80s starting very soon. So let's get that math work done so that you can enjoy being outside in your backyard or your front yard too. So I'm going to sit down now and we're going to get started. Okay, this is lesson 12.3 and there's a lot to it. So I'm going to be talking kind of fast. So please pause it whenever you need to. Please rewind it if I say something too quickly. I really want this video to be what you need without having to wait for hours for it to upload. All right, so lesson 12.3 is called Dividing Polynomials. All right. And to do that, we're going to have our polynomials, and here are the directions. Divide 4 times 3x cubed plus 8x squared plus 10x by 2x. All right, so we're dividing polynomials, algebra equations. Now this looks hard and complex, but we actually use a very basic method that you learned in elementary school. We just use a house or long division. So I'm going to take my 2x and I'm going to put it outside of my box. And then I'm going to take what I'm dividing by, the dividend, inside, like this. Okay, and then I basically use the same method. Now let's just look at an example. Let's say I was dividing 2 into 536. What would I do? I would ask myself, how many times does 2 go into 5? And I mean, that's obvious, but I would kind of guess. So I'd go 2 times 2, it goes twice. 2 times 2 is 4, and then I subtract, and I bring down the 3, right? And then I do it again. And I say, how many times does 2 go into 13? And you think 6, and then I multiply 6 times 2 to get 12, and I subtract. And that's how it goes. That's how long division works. We're going to use all of those same steps with polynomials. So we're using long division. All right, so let's start that here. Just in the same way that I said, how many times does 2 go into 5? I ask myself, what do I multiply 2x by that will go into 4x cubed? Well, what do I do? 2 times 2 is 4, so I'm going to put a 2 up there. And what do I have to multiply x by to get 4x cubed? Well, x squared. So I'm doing that asking first. And now I'm actually going to multiply it and then subtract it. So 2x squared times 2x is 4x cubed, which is exactly what I wanted. I want it to all go away. And then I'm going to subtract. So that cancels, and the next thing I do is I bring down this term. Now this is where there's a little bit of a difference. Do you see here I have a plus and I have a plus? I don't have any of that in my regular numbers like 536. So I have to show that up on top. So because I have a plus here, I'm going to put a plus up on top. Okay, so now I ask myself, what would I multiply 2x by to get 8x squared? Well, I would multiply 2 times 4, that's 8, and I need one more x. So now when I multiply those, I get 8x squared, and then I subtract. And fortunately, that all goes away evenly. So then I just bring down my last term, which is 10x. Okay? So now I'm going to multiply 2x times what to get 10x? Well, I'm going to put a plus there, and I'm going to multiply that by 5. And 5 times 2x is 10x. So the answer to my problem is, the quotient is 2x squared plus 4x plus 5. And that's my answer. Okay, so let's do another one. And of course it's going to get a little bit harder, but I know you can handle it. So this time I'm going to divide a trinomial by x minus 1. Not just one term, but 2. Okay, so I'm going to put x minus 1 outside, and then I'm going to put x squared plus 2x minus 3. Now, when I subtract in division, there's another thing that I can do that's equivalent to that. That is change the signs. Cross the line, change the signs. So that's going to become important in this next problem. Okay? So, now I have two terms here. So x minus 1 doesn't go into just x squared. X does, but I don't just have x anymore. I have x minus 1. So I have to look at the second term. What do I multiply x minus 1 to get as close as possible to x squared plus 2x as I can? Well, I would look at this and say x times what is x squared, so I would try x. So x times x is x squared. And now I do the other term. X times negative 1 is negative x. Do you see that? So I asked myself, how many times, what do I have to multiply to have this go directly into this? But when I'm working it out, I have to consider also the x minus 1. Now, instead of subtracting this time, I'm going to change the signs. So my first term goes away, and that of course is what I want. And now I'm going to deal with the second. So 2x plus x is 3x. Just remember, if I had 2x minus negative x, because I usually subtract, and that was a negative x, that's why it becomes positive. Okay? Now I ask myself, what do I multiply x by to get 3x? Oh, and I'm going to bring down my last term. Well, if I multiply by 3, I get 3x. So 3 times x is 3x, but now I need to multiply by the second thing as well. So 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Oh, look at how well that works out. But I need to subtract, which means I'm going to change my sign, and I have no remainder. So my answer is x plus 3. Now I'm sure to check it, if we multiplied my divisor, which was x minus 1, times my answer, and I FOILed it together, I would get x squared plus 3x minus x minus 3, and that does work out. So you can check your work by FOILing. All right, let's do number 3. Divide 2x squared plus 11x minus 9 by 2x minus 3. So again, I'm going to put 2x minus 3 on the outside, and I put 2x squared plus 11x minus 9 on the inside. Okay, so now I'm going to ask myself, what would I multiply 2x by to get 2x squared? 2x times what is 2x squared? Well, x. But I can't put it in this spot because I also have the negative 3. So I have to include that. So I'm going to put it here. Now I'm going to multiply. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. You see how that works out? It all ends up in the right place. So if you were going to write some steps, you would say, number 1, you multiply, and number 2, we subtract or change the signs. Just like in regular long division. Now I'm going to change the signs, and I get 14x minus 9. Okay? So now I ask myself, what do I multiply 2x by to get 14x? Well, it would be 7, positive 7. So I'm going to add 7 there, and now I'm actually going to multiply. So 7 times 2x is 14x, and 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. And then I change my signs by that's subtracting, and I end up with positive 12. Now, can 2x go into 12? No, I can't divide anymore. And just like in long division, when it doesn't go in evenly, you're left with a remainder, and that's okay. So when I'm writing my answer, I'm going to say x plus 7, and then I'm going to have my remainder, which is 12 out of my divider. So this is my remainder. Okay? Just like, let's say I had 2 going into 35, right? If I was going to divide that, I would say 2 goes into 3 once, subtract, I have 15, 2 goes into 15 7 times. And what do I do with that when I have 1 left over? Well, I write it as 1 over 2. So the remainder goes on top, and then my divisor goes in the bottom, right? 17 and a half. 1/2 is my remainder. So in the same way, my remaining number goes here on top, and my divisor goes on the bottom of my remainder. And I add it unless it's negative. I combine it together. Okay, I want you to try some on your own. So why don't you go ahead and divide these problems, and we'll come back in a minute. Number 1, 6x cubed plus 3x squared minus 12x divided by 3x, and I'm going to leave some space there to work it out. And then number 2 is a squared plus 3a minus 4 divided by a plus 1. Okay, so go ahead and work those out, and I pause the video, and I will come back in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so let's do these. I'm going to change colors. How about pink? All right, so I'm going to rewrite this as 3x out of 6x cubed plus 3x squared minus 12x. And then, what do I multiply 3x by to get 6x cubed? I multiplied by 2x squared. So when I multiply those, I actually get 6x cubed, and I'm going to subtract. Those cancel out, and I get 3x squared. I bring that down. So what do I multiply 3x by to get 3x squared? I multiply by x. So I'm going to write x there, and 3x squared goes here. Change the sign. Again, that goes in perfectly. And then I'm going to bring down 12x, and I multiply 3x times 4 to get 12x, and I subtract, and that's my perfect answer. It goes in exactly. Okay? All those years of long division are paying off. Okay, let's do the next one. So I have a plus 1 here, and then a squared plus 3a, minus 4. So I asked myself, how many times does a go into a squared? Well, it goes in, I multiply by a, but I can't put it in the first spot because I have two terms. I've got a plus 1, so it's going to go here in the second spot. And when we multiply, we see how that works out. So a times a is a squared, and a times 1 is a. And then what do? I change the signs, which is the same as subtracting. So 3a minus a is 2a minus 4. What do I multiply a by to get 2a? I multiply by 2. So then 2 times a is 2a, and I multiply by the second part now. 2 times 1 is 2. And I want to subtract, so I change my signs, and I end up with negative 6. Does a go into negative 6? No, it's just a remainder. So I'm going to write my answer as a plus 2 minus or plus negative 6 over a plus 1. So my remainder goes up here, and the divisor goes in the denominator. All right, let's do the next one. So I get, now I'm going to talk about this one. I'm not actually going to do it. So I just want to give you some instruction because there will be some problems like this. 5y plus y squared plus 4, divided by 2 plus y. Okay, what's wrong with that? Well, I need to rearrange because it's out of order. It's not in standard form. So I'm going to rewrite this as y squared plus 5y plus 4. And I want to have this also rewritten to y plus 2. So now when I divide, I've got everything in the correct order. Order matters. Okay? So I'm going to let you finish that one, but I don't have time to do it, but it was very important for you to see that, that order matters. Okay, let's keep going. Number 5, divide 13 plus 4m squared by negative 1 plus 2m. Okay, so we have a few things we need to do here. The first thing we need to do is rearrange the problem because the terms are out of order. So I have 4m squared plus 13. And I also have this out of order, so I'm going to change that to 2m minus 1. How is this different? Well, up till now, we've had trinomials every time. We've had, like up here, a y squared, a y term, and then a constant, a number without a variable. I only have two terms here. I have an m squared, and I have a constant. I am missing the middle term. Well, that's going to make dividing potentially difficult. I might need that middle term. So what we do in that case is we insert a missing term. And here's how you do that. We're going to write 4m squared. Do I actually have an m term? No. But I can put in something that's 0. That becomes a placeholder, okay? So we have this now is a placeholder and will help us in case we need the m term. So it doesn't change the value because it's 0, but it does actually put a physical term in the problem. And now I'm going to divide by 2m minus 1. Okay, so now you're going to see how this helps us and why it's important, okay? So what do I multiply 2m by to get 4m squared? Well, 2m. But where am I going to put that? I have a second term here, so I'm going to put it here. Already we're using it. Do you see? By having this in place here, I have room on the bar up above to put an m term. So now I'm going to work it out. 2m times 2m is 4m squared, and 2m times negative 1 is negative 2m. See, now I'm using it even down below, because I have an m term now when I'm dividing out, and I have to know what to do with that. I have to have a place to write it down. Now I'm going to go through all the other steps that I did. So I'm going to subtract, or change the signs, which is subtract. Now 0m and 2m is 2m. So it still has a 0 value. It doesn't change the problem, but it does allow me to have a place to deal with the 2m. Okay, so what do I multiply 2m by to get 2m? Well, 1. I multiply it by itself. That's okay. I need to have that 1. So 1 times 2m is 2m, and 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Don't forget, change your signs, okay? Be very careful with that. Don't do these problems quickly. A negative or a positive in the wrong place can really mess you up. Details are very important with this, okay? You don't want to be sorry because you added and you instead of subtracting, and that just took the division problem in a different direction, okay? So now I've got 2m plus 1 for an answer plus my remainder, which is 14 over 2m plus 1. So that's my answer. All right, now that was number 5. Now we're going to do number 6. I'm going to read you